Welcome to the Doctor's Eyes Only podcast, brought to you by Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors, where we are on a mission to help the highest caliber physicians achieve wealth that matters.
Welcome to another special edition of Doctor's Eyes Only podcast. Again, my name's Cameron Heasley. I'm a partner here at Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors. I'll be your host today as we engage another client that's doing extraordinary things outside of their day job. Allow me to introduce you to Dr. Brian McVay. Brian's an anesthesiologist practicing in Tampa, Florida. I've had the privilege and honor of going way back with Brian when I originally met him here in Indiana. One of the things I appreciate most about Brian and his family is that they stick to their priorities and they care deeply for others. In my opinion, Brian does a great job of balancing investing in his work, but never underinvesting in his relationships. Recently, Brian and I were on a call together, catching up on a few work initiatives, but what stood out to me was his intentionality and commitment to his sons, who are eagerly awaiting to go fishing with their dad. In my opinion, Brian's deep care and love for his family and friends is one of the many reasons he recently launched a new business called MediDoc Pro. In our conversation today, I'll explore what gets Brian up in the morning, give him an opportunity to share a little more about MediDoc Pro, and hopefully provide some encouragement to our listeners who have similar aspirations inside and outside of their workplace. So what do you say, Brian? Without further ado, how about we dive in?
Sounds great, Cameron. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to this.
Fantastic. Well, like I said, we'll just go deep right from the get-go. Tell me a little bit about your journey, how we got here, and what led you to be so passionate about setting up a business outside of your day job.
Just like Cameron said, I've been a practicing anesthesiologist. I finished my residency at Indiana University back in 2011 and worked there in Indianapolis for about a year and a half before moving to Tampa. And been down here in the Tampa area for almost 10 years now.
Wow.
And time has flown. But, you know, one of the aspects that I've gone through over the last 10 years of my practice is I see on a daily basis, it's a difficult position to try to get a hold of family members of, you know, patients that come in, whether they want to have, you know, for surgery or surgical procedures or consents. It can be difficult to get in touch with them. And a couple of years ago, actually, right before COVID started, a couple of gentlemen and I came up with an idea, and then COVID hit. And so it never came to fruition, just like several other things out there. But over the last couple of years, myself and a couple of my business partners have gotten together and we've created a really cool portal system that allows physicians to have immediate access to advanced care directives as well as any other type of medical information that a patient or a client would decide to actually upload into our portal system. And the way it works is they sign up for our portal, and then they can actually delineate which documents that they want to share with medical professionals and which ones they don't want to share. And when they sign up, a QR code is actually created for the client. And in that QR code, if they go to the ED, that QR code can be scanned. And then through our validation and verification system, it proves that it is actually a medical professional that is trying to get into their system or get into their portal to get access to their documents. So our basis and our motto, you know, overall is your health, your decisions, and your way. And that's a problem that people, when they go to the ED, they don't have their advanced care directives. Most of the time, people leave it in their file cabinet in their office. Some people put it in their glove box. Some people put it in their safety deposit box at the bank. So there's limited access to those documents. Let alone any other type of medical information you want to upload for yourself. So what we've done, again, with our product is made it very easy for medical professionals to get access to it. And we're in the process right now of creating a link for a lot of the major electronic medical record systems, such as Epic and Cerner, to where our portal system will actually talk and communicate with those systems. And so if somebody wants to update their medical information, they can do it on their portal, and then it be uploaded into those EMR systems when they go to the hospital.
Ryan, one of the things I was hoping to push in a little bit on was you have personal experience with this, not just as a physician, but you've walked family members and friends through this process as well. I don't know if you want to make a comment on any of that.
As physicians, we deal with this on a daily basis, and I've seen, a client as an anesthesiologist, I come down, I go see a patient, they've got dementia, they need to have a pacemaker, for example. And I get here's the phone. This is their daughter. She has power of attorney. We do the consent. And then, I run upstairs and come back downstairs. And 5 minutes later, they're like, here's their son. He has power of attorney. Well, who truly has the power of attorney? And for myself, yeah, Cameron, you're right. Fortunately, my mom just recently moved up here from Fort Myers about a year ago. She was hit by Hurricane Ian and suffered some damage at her home. And it was time for her to come up here and be closer to us. And as she was preparing to sell her home, she tripped and fell and ended up having a hip fracture. And fortunately, she didn't lose consciousness, but ambulance came and took her to a hospital. And I called the 3 major hospitals there in the Fort Myers area, trying to see where she was just to get access and make sure everything was okay. And she was never logged in. So this is actually one of those things. One of the nice aspects about our product is when the QR code is scanned. For example, if, when I signed my mom up for this, her QR code gets scanned. I, as the emergency contact, which I would have put into the system, would automatically be alerted via a text and email. And on top of that, there's a Google Maps that shows where the QR code was scanned at. So then, that would alleviate a lot of those questions of what I had. And I waited around for about 6 hours waiting to hear. Fortunately, again, she didn't lose consciousness and had her phone. She called me at 11:30 at night and said she was going to the OR the next day. So.
Well, as a fellow business owner, I'm sure you've experienced your fair share of ups and downs building a business, and obviously there's more to come. Walk me through some of what you've navigated up to this point, any lessons learned in the process. We have largely a group of physicians listening to this, but some of those are also fellow business owners. What's your experience been?
It's trials and tribulations. It's been a roller coaster. As we've gone through this process, when you start out with an original group of people that start the project, it's amazing how life can throw you curveballs and changes, and you have to learn to pivot. And as you do pivot, you still have to think about the future for the company in itself and implications that it can have regarding, legal issues or anything like that. So you have to be prepared to start thinking ahead. And as we've gone through this process, our hardest part, I'm an anesthesiologist. I can tell you a lot about, peak airway pressures and plateau pressures, with ventilation. But when it comes to software technology and computer technology and coding, that's not my forte. And so when we originally started out, we had a company that helped us develop our backbone of the software and the portal system. And we've been fortunate enough that one of our newest partners has come on, and he actually created a SaaS business himself a couple of years ago and sold that. And he is a coder himself. And so he's been going through and doing a lot of changes for us as we see the necessary changes that we want to update and make the system better for everyone. That's the biggest thing. And so, again, I think as a business owner and a business, you have to learn to pivot and be able to be flexible and make those changes to help better the company.
I'm curious, now that you've been with MediDoc for a few years, how does some of this overlay with your day job? Are there best practices that you've been able to implement, or you've been able to take the tools and resources that you've essentially equipped yourself with that translate into that day-to-day job?
I'm very fortunate in my position that I have post-call days. So I will be honest that, being blessed to have that time off on the day after a call, whether I've worked all night or I didn't, it takes motivation and it takes dedication to continue to work the next day. I have a lot of drive to make this company work and to make it be proficient. And so there's been times where I could have been like a lot of my colleagues and done other things for my personal benefit. But on some of those days, I've sacrificed that personal time and actually given it into, the company. And, that we try to, trying to go back and forth. The balance is the hardest part. I've got a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, 2 boys that both of them love to go swimming and fishing. And now they're getting into sports. And, I want to have more free time in the future. So that in itself is a drive for me to try to, again, make this company be successful to hopefully give me more free time in the future as well.
Let's expand on that. One of the things we champion at Vestia is this concept or value that we call wealth that matters. We each get an opportunity to define that. For me personally, my wealth that matters is all about relationships and stewardship. You've already touched on this a bit, but how do you personally define that, and how are you living that out in real time, Brian?
So it's unfortunate. I lost my dad about 10 years ago to lymphoma, right after my wife and I moved from Indianapolis down here. I think God works in mysterious ways. God, I think, had a plan for my dad, and we moved down here to be down here when he was initially diagnosed with lymphoma and then sick. And then within a year, left us. And so I think, again, to learn value of family, and, I lost somebody that, I didn't get, 67 years was a lot of time, that, he was here on this earth, but I didn't get all that time. And, it's interesting when we went through that process, I wanted my boys to be able to see part of their grandfather. And so I recorded some questions and had him do some videoing. And I want my boys to see that family is a big value to them. And, again, I want them to put, Christ first and then family second. And, that's, one thing I love about our boys right now going to school every week, they have to learn a Bible verse. And my wife and I, every week, whether we've heard it or not, we're learning as well. And it's a great adventure for us to go through this process together as a family.
You're making a lot of calls these days, hospital systems, financial advisors, estate attorneys, funeral homes, just to name a few, correct?
That is correct. There's a lot of avenues, and there's a lot of aspects that the product we're coming up with and we're starting to get out there can really help people. Perfect example is my wife and I we just went overseas for a week of vacation. And I uploaded copies of our passports and our driver's license just in case they were lost or stolen over there and we'd have access to them. Because our system is HIPAA level security. So it's very secure. But yet it creates the accessibility that, physicians need to have in important times and also when time matters.
Awesome. Well, as we wrap up our time, I'll leave you some space here. Anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
No, again, this is a very exciting time. And, for personnel and anybody who wants to travel, when I say that, what Cameron mentioned, not only funeral homes, but we're going to go to pilot unions and talk to people who travel for business. And I think that this is important, that there's access to an insurance policy that creates that open door for alerting family members in a time of need.
Hey, Brian, one of the questions I've started asking clients in this segment is, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way they can reach out?
Absolutely. One, this is the card that we actually have for MediDoc Pro. Here's the back with the QR code that anybody can take a look at and see. But if anybody wants to reach out to us, they can feel free to get a hold of us at brian@medidocpro.com, or they can go to the website at MediDoc Pro. That's medidocpro.com.
Fantastic. Well, Brian, I hope you know what a pleasure it is. Appreciate you taking a few minutes this afternoon to connect. And if anybody would like to get in touch, we'll include those notes in the show notes listed below.
Thank you so much for the time, Cameron. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Doctor's Eyes Only podcast. We hope today's conversation advanced your journey toward wealth that matters. Make sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss a single one of our amazing episodes. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Vestia Advisors, LLC. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. It should not be construed as legal or tax advice and is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified attorney or tax advisor. This information is not an offer or a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Before investing, you should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses associated with investment products. Investment decisions should be based on an individual's own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Diversification and asset allocation do not ensure a profit or guarantee against loss. Consult your financial professional before making any investments. Investment advisory services offered through Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors, Vestia Retirement Plan Consultants, and Vestia Advisors, LLC. Securities offered through Osdale Financial Partners, Inc., 5187 Utica Ridge Road, Davenport, Iowa, 52807. Member, FINRA, SIPC. Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors, Vestia Retirement Plan Consultants, Vestia Advisors, LLC, and Osdale Financial Partners, Inc. are independently owned and operated.